Mark here from Kearney and Cognitive Labs to describe how to edit an assignment that was created in TA. Recall in a previous video, I showed you how to create an assignment called Le Chatelier's Principle. It was a lab report for a lab exercise on that subject. I had uploaded my written lab write-up and rubric as PDF files, and TA started the creation of the assignment in a form that it could use. To make sure that TA interpreted the documents given to it correctly, and for you to make additions or changes, you're going to need to look it over. This is the screen you'll be taken to after you create an assignment. Scrolling down the left side menu, you could see that TA interpreted from the documents you gave it that there are 14 items or questions that need to be addressed by the student. That is the correct number for this assignment. But if you wanted, you could add more here by clicking the plus question button. Or you could delete a question by using the button on the bottom right-hand side of the page. If you wanted to, you could add a statement as well by clicking the plus statement button. You can see a box for you to type the statement in here. That statement will be placed in the template that all students will see when they complete their lab report. The order of the questions and the statements can be modified by dragging them from one place to another on the side menu. Since I'm not going to use this statement, I'm going to delete it right now. And then we'll go back to question number 1. For each one of these questions, you're going to need to give it a student-facing title. That is what the student will see as a prompt in the template. If you don't add a student-facing title, the prompt written by TA will appear as the title to the question in the student template. This is the prompt that TA interpreted from your rubric. You can modify that task if you like, but always ask yourself, what is the least amount of information that you would accept as an answer to the question? So that students don't get answers evaluated as incorrect when, if you were reading them, you would give them credit. Also, don't worry, this task can be modified later if you feel the need, even after a student has turned in the lab report. TA finds the point total for each item from the rubric. You can modify it here if you want as well. Know that when TA evaluates a response, it will do so in increments of 0.125. So clicking on these arrows up or down here will do that same kind of incremental change. If you wanted to make a bigger change, you could just hover over that and type in whatever value you wanted. TA also has written grading criteria and procedures for every question. You can modify those as well, or add more if you feel like more precision is needed. You can modify the procedure by double-clicking inside the box, and then you can type whatever you want. Clicking enter, it will then make that question as you changed it. You could also click outside the box to add a new question by simply typing in after you do that, and then press enter. Now, since I don't want to use this gobbledygook that I wrote, I'm just going to click X to get rid of it right now. All right, I'll name this first question goal for the lab. Well, I could type that in, or since I've done some of these templates already, I'm just going to scroll down and find the one that fits from things that I've used before. So this is referred to as the goal for the lab. I'm going to keep the student task prompt for grading as it is because I like the way that TA wrote it. And then the grading procedure is good as well. The students just need to list one goal. I'll now approve that question. And when it approves it, it'll take me to question number 2 to do a similar kind of thing. Question number 2 asks about the procedure. And so I'm going to type in that as the prompt here and evaluate whether I like the student task for that, which I do. The scoring is right. And then I'm simply going to add to this scoring, the grading criteria and procedures. When I double click in there, oh, I just made a mistake. I'm going to press Control Z, and then I will put in summary form. Just to add to that, to make it more precise. I'll then approve this question, and it'll take me to question number 3. Question number 3 asks me about an image that could be placed inside the lab report. So I'm just going to name it as such. You can see images comes up, and so I'll pick that. I like the student task and the grading criteria as well, so let me approve that question. And then it's going to take me to question number 4. Now, question number 4 is probably the most important thing that you're going to work on in this case. It is the data table gotten from the students' data they accumulated while doing the lab. So I picked data table. It says to construct a data table recording the wall contents and resulting colors from each step in the procedure, delineating those 5 steps, 2 through 10, which are there. Each one of these was given a value of 0.5 in my rubric. So that's why the max points here is shown is 2.5. I like the grading procedure there, just saying that it needs to have a complete and reasonable colors. But I would like to also add, since I have experience in doing this lab over the years, that students sometimes see blue, which is the correct answer, as violet or purple. So I'm going to add it that the AI or the TA should interpret it, those colors as blue. So I'm just going to write down interpret the colors of violet or purple as blue. All right. The next thing you're going to find is that there's a table configuration that you have to deal with. This helps this TA to look for certain things in the data table, namely the 4 headings that the rubric showed before. One of them was for the step number, ultimately referred to as just step or procedure step. These are other words that TA might look for to see if the student is appropriately producing the data table. Heading number 2 is the well ID. Number 3 is the contents that are there from a chemical perspective. And head number 4 is the color. You can see that all of these are really just qualitative values. They're not measurements made quantitatively. So TA put a check in the box there so that it knows that it's not looking for numbers here. If there were measurements made in the table that you wanted to see, then you should uncheck that box. And so it'll be looking for measurements as opposed to qualitative information. Also, if you check the box above that for accept a heading as implied, then if students fail to put a heading in their table, the TA will look at the data that's in the column to be able to interpret what that heading should be if you think that that's okay. And so in this particular case, I'm leaving that to be the case for all 4 of the headings in my table. There's a grading focus here too that I'm going to leave at about 70% data, 30% concepts, because I want the data of color to be heavily or more heavily valued than just information about what the students did in the process that the data table might convey. All right, so I'm going to approve this question. The next series of questions ask students to analyze their data from questions in the lab write-up. I'll call this one Data Analysis Question 1. TA did a great job of writing the prompt and scoring criteria. The remaining analytical questions need to be addressed in a similar manner. But I'm going to pause the video right now so that I can get to the end and not be repetitive. Okay, here we are on the last question, which is the conclusion. So I'll write that in and I'll approve it because I like the way the student task and the grading criteria was written by TA. Once this question gets approved, you'll see that we have an opportunity now to finalize the assignment, which I'm going to press right now. After you finalize the assignment, this is the screen that you'll be taken to. You can see what the document is going to look like by scrolling inside of the document preview box. If you like what you see, or if you want to make some changes to the formatting of the document, you can do that here for the font, color, size, and alignment. If you want everything to be the same, you can click global font at the very beginning. That means everything will turn out to be the same. The tables that are produced here can vary depending upon what you want the students to be able to do. You can supply them an empty 2x2 grid that they can add rows and columns to produce their own table, or you can have a table that they're given that has table headings or row for the rows or columns being filled in already. with the kind of things that the student should expect to fill in. There's also a part where you can have students grade their own reports before TA evaluates things. I do that. And what happens is once they register the report, then they're sent a rubric, the rubric that was made to make the TA rubric for them to evaluate their own work. Once they do that, then they'll submit the lab report for TA to do its evaluation and for me to do the review. Once you make these decisions here, then you can save this to the course, and then you could use that particular template by sending it to the students to use. I'll talk with you soon about how it is that these templates can be used, and then also how they can be evaluated.